The stabbing of a man in Belfast sparked violent anti-immigration protests where people torched buildings and vehicles and blocked roads. The United States and Iran traded attacks after the downing of an American helicopter near the Strait of Hormuz. UK leaders are calling for calm after the stabbing of a man in Belfast sparked violent anti-immigration protests where people torched buildings and vehicles and blocked roads. A Sudanese man was arrested on Tuesday in relation to the stabbing attack that was captured in a graphic video that shocked the country. As anti-immigration figures, including Reform Party leader Nigel Farage, demanded details about the attacker's background, the Interior Ministry confirmed he was a Sudanese asylum seeker. Northern Ireland's leaders urged people not to incite hate and fear or target particular communities after reports emerged that protests were planned. Tensions were already high in Britain after violent skirmishes last week in Southampton over the police handling of the murder of Henry Novak, a young white student stabbed to death by a British Sikh man. Tech billionaire Elon Musk chimed in again on social media following the attack in Belfast, retweeting a post by far-right activist Tommy Robinson. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer had previously accused Musk of fueling division in Britain over his comments on Novak's murder.
The European Commission has warned the Albanian government over a €1.4 billion real estate project linked to US President Donald Trump's family. Protests over the construction of a luxury coastal resort led by Trump's daughter Ivanka and son-in-law Jared Kushner in a protected Albanian nature reserve have entered their second week. A European Commission spokesperson urged Tirana to act to avoid jeopardizing the country's bid to join the EU, as accession talks require a candidate country to align with environmental rules.
Albania should refrain from action that could undermine the fulfillment of the closing benchmark, and we expect the Albanian authorities to act without delay.
The spokesperson added that the Commission has expressed concerns to Albania's Minister of the Environment about the potential shortcomings of the project, and that the minister had assured Brussels that construction work has been suspended. Albania's Prime Minister Edi Rama has, however, defended the project, telling Euronews last Friday that resistance to the plans was part of what he called a, quote, hybrid war waged by people taking advantage of well-meaning sentiments regarding the environment.
Bahrain, Kuwait and Jordan sounded alerts and fired air defenses early on Wednesday as the United States and Iran traded attacks after the downing of an American helicopter a day earlier. Jordan said it shot down 5 incoming missiles launched by Iran targeting an area that's home to an airbase that hosts U.S. forces. Tehran had vowed to respond after the U.S. launched airstrikes on Iran, accusing it of shooting down an army helicopter near the Strait of Hormuz. Iranian media reported at least 2 series of explosions along Iran's southern coast near the strait. Later, U.S. Central Command said in a post on X that it had completed so-called self-defense strikes against Iran, adding that U.S. forces struck Iranian air defense, ground control stations, and surveillance radar sites near the Strait of Hormuz. Before he accused Iran of downing the U.S. helicopter, Trump had expressed renewed optimism over negotiations with Iran, without elaborating. Officials have been unable to turn the April ceasefire into a deal to permanently end the conflict, particularly as Israel intensifies and expands its military campaign in Lebanon against the Iranian-backed militia Hezbollah.
Europe experienced one of its hottest months on record last month under an unusually early heat wave that the EU's Copernicus Climate Change Service warned is becoming the new normal. According to the EU's Climate Monitor, May was the second hottest month on record globally, a month that saw Britain, France, Ireland and Portugal break their own records as a heat dome of warm air from northern Africa pushed temperatures well above normal levels. According to Copernicus, globally, the average surface air temperature reached 15.81 degrees Celsius, second only to May 2024. The average sea surface temperature was also the second highest on record, behind May 2024, as conditions shift towards the warming El Nino weather pattern. Forecast warned that the coming El Nino could be one of the strongest on record. Last week, the World Meteorological Organization warned El Nino has an 80% chance of developing between June and August, increasing the risk of extreme weather events.
The European Commission has proposed new sanctions against Russia, targeting oil revenues, shadow fleet, banks, cryptocurrency firms, metals, fish products, and soldiers who took part in the full-scale invasion of Ukraine.
The objective of our package couldn't be clearer. We want to maintain the full intensity of our sanctions. And the way to do this is to ensure that Russia's profits from oil sales remain contained.
The main element concerns the price cap on Russian oil that the EU, along with the G7 and Australia, has implemented since December 2022. Last year, the mechanism was made dynamic, with the cap set at 15% below the average price. Yet, the blockade of the Strait of Hormuz has pushed the price of oil up. This means that if the EU goes ahead, the cap will be adjusted upwards, and it will grant Moscow some temporary relief. The Commission proposes to keep the price cap as it is now at $44.10 per barrel. In addition, it proposes to blacklist 30 vessels from the Russian shadow fleet, 31 Russian banks, as well as 20 cryptocurrency firms. The proposal also plans to deny entry into the Schengen area to Russian soldiers who have served in Russia's war against Ukraine. Approval of the sanctions requires unanimity by the 27 member states. If endorsed, it will represent the 21st package of sanctions since February 2022.
A consortium led by French plane producer Airbus has proposed developing a next-gen fighter jet after the high-profile German Franco warplane program collapsed. The move comes a day after German Chancellor Friedrich Merz and French President Emmanuel Macron officially ended the original project, following years of disagreements between their countries' industrial partners. Munich-based defense tech company Hensoldt said it had joined forces with Airbus and a slew of other companies to draw up an alternative plan. A spokesperson for the firm said the proposal has been submitted to German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius and Chancellor Merz. Pistorius acknowledged the existence of the proposal and said his office was still assessing it, but praised the stakeholders' continued interest after what he described as a painful breakdown of the previous initiative. The company said more will be detailed about the Future Combat Air System, or FCAS, and the next generation weapon system on Thursday at the Berlin ILA Air Show. Iran's national football team is training in Tijuana under tight security and logistical constraints with a week to go until the tournament kicks off, and visa challenges continuing to plague the team. But in a shock and seemingly solitary decision, Tehran's World Cup ticket allocation has now also been cancelled. The Iranian Football Federation said on Tuesday that the entirety of its guaranteed allocation of 8% capacity for each of its matches, tickets reserved for officials, extended team members, and families and friends of the players and coaching staff, have been cancelled without further explanation. The Iranian FA says it has issued a formal protest on the matter, which has not affected any of the other 47 teams. It comes after the U.S. had previously denied visas to 13 members of Iran's technical and administrative staff, and reports circulated that Iranian players would only be permitted presence in the U.S. on match days, meaning the team would have to fly into and out of the United States on the same day. FIFA protocols require host countries to enable players to fly in a day prior to fulfill their media duties and train on the match grounds prior to fixtures, but a seemingly stubborn White House looks set to block that. The restrictions come as the Trump administration continues to diplomatically clash with Tehran in negotiations aimed at ending the war they waged with Israel in February.
The countdown is almost over. Across North America, host cities are putting the finishing touches to preparations for the biggest World Cup in history. From Kansas to Toronto, officials say security plans are in place.
I think for the world, we want to show off that Kansas City is on the rise, that we are elevating. We are, no longer, as we say, a flyover state, we're a fly-to state. But we also want people in Kansas City to be really proud of this as well. We hope Kansas Cityans and those in the region are really excited to host and show off and proud that this came to their backyard.
Toronto will host 6 World Cup games starting this Friday. Officials in Canada's largest city say they are ready to welcome the world and are emphasizing its diversity.
Embrace this moment in our city, in our country's history, and experience all that this opportunity has to offer. We are ready to welcome the world, and we are looking forward to kicking off.
But beyond host cities' preparations and the stadiums, the focus is also now shifting to the national teams. On Monday, Mexico's President Claudia Sheinbaum presided over a flag presentation ceremony for the national team, 3 days before the country opens the 2026 FIFA World Cup against South Africa. Mexico plays host to 6 national squads in the country, including the Iranian squad embroiled in a war with the US. Meanwhile, as final preparations enter their last phase, fans and officials are confronted with some obstacles: exorbitant ticket prices, US travel bans, and visa restrictions. On Monday, Omar Artan, who was set to be the first Somali to referee at the World Cup finals, was dropped from the list of officials after he was denied entry to the United States. His entry refusal follows President Donald Trump's visa ban list and restrictions, including 4 competing at the World Cup: Haiti, Iran, Senegal, and Ivory Coast.